There is a question that has no comfortable answer, not because humans haven't tried to answer it. They have for thousands of years across every civilization that ever existed, but because every answer eventually arrives at the same wall. Push back far enough and you reach a point where the tools we use to understand things, time, space, cause, effect, stop working. And what sits on the other side of that point is something the human mind was not built to see clearly. The question is simple. Before the universe existed, what was there? Start with what science says. The Big Bang is the best supported model of how the universe began. Roughly 13.8 billion years ago, everything that exists, all matter, all energy, all space, all time, emerged from a single point of infinite density and temperature. In the first fraction of a second, the universe expanded faster than light. In the first 3 minutes, the first atomic nuclei formed. In the first few 100,000 years, light separated from matter and the universe became transparent for the first time. This is not a theory in the casual sense. It is supported by multiple independent lines of evidence. The cosmic microwave background radiation, the observed expansion of the universe, the abundance of light elements in the proportions predicted. The evidence is real and the model is robust. But the model has an edge, and at that edge, it stops. The mathematics of the Big Bang, followed backward to the very first moment, arrives at what physicists call a singularity, a point where density becomes infinite, where the equations break down, where the laws of physics as we understand them cease to apply. The singularity is not a place inside the universe. It is the boundary of the universe, and what sits beyond that boundary, before it, outside it, is a question the model itself cannot answer. This is not a gap that more data will necessarily fill. It is a structural limitation. General relativity, which governs the physics of the very large, and quantum mechanics, which governs the physics of the very small, currently cannot be unified into a single theory. The singularity is where that unification would need to work, and it doesn't yet. What happened at or before the very first moment is genuinely structurally unknown within current physics. Several proposals exist. The first is the most disorienting. Some physicists, most famously Stephen Hawking, proposed that the question itself may be malformed. Using a model called the Hartle-Hawking state, Hawking argued that time itself may have behaved differently in the extreme conditions of the early universe, that asking what came before the Big Bang may be like asking what is south of the South Pole, not unanswerable because the answer is hidden, unanswerable because the question assumes a structure, a before, that may not have existed. If time began with the universe, there is no before. Not empty time, not waiting darkness, nothing. The concept of before requires time to exist, and if time didn't exist, before didn't exist. This is not satisfying. The mind pushes back. Something must have caused it. Something must have been there. But this pushing back may simply be the brain applying rules that work inside the universe to something that is outside it. A fish asking what the water is made of, the tool being used on the thing it cannot reach. A second proposal involves eternal inflation. In this model, our universe is not the only one. The Big Bang was not the absolute beginning of everything, but a local event, one of potentially infinite expansion events in an eternally inflating larger space. Universes bubble off from this larger fabric continuously, each with potentially different physical constants, different laws, different structures. Our universe is one bubble. There are others. The larger fabric, the inflating void, may have no beginning at all. This pushes the question back one level but does not answer it. What is the eternally inflating fabric? Where did it come from? The regress continues. Every answer generates a prior question. A third proposal is the cyclic model. The idea that our universe is not the first, that the Big Bang was not a beginning but a bounce. A previous universe collapsed into a singularity, and the energy of that collapse became the energy of our expansion. This has been proposed in various forms, most recently by Roger Penrose in his conformal cyclic cosmology. The universe expands, its contents dissipate. It reaches a state that is physically identical to a Big Bang singularity, and a new cycle begins. This is mathematically interesting. It is not yet testable in the ways required to confirm or rule it out. And then there is what most of human history has said. Across nearly every religious and philosophical tradition on Earth, the question of what existed before the universe points to the same answer. Not nothing, not a previous universe, but a creator, a being or force that exists outside of time and space entirely, uncaused, uncreated, requiring no origin because the concept of origin only applies to things within the created order. In Islamic theology, this is stated with a clarity that has no equivalent in scientific frameworks. Allah existed before time, before space, before anything. He was, in the Arabic formulation, when there was nothing else, not in a time when nothing else existed, before time itself. The question of what existed before the universe has, in this framework, a direct answer. The Creator existed, and the Creator is not subject to the same rules that govern created things. You cannot ask what caused the Creator the way you ask what caused the universe, because causation is a rule that applies inside creation, not to the one who created it. This is not a logical gap or an evasion. It is a coherent philosophical position that preempts the infinite regress problem that every purely physical model runs into. Every scientific model that proposes a prior state, a prior universe, an eternal inflating field, a previous cycle, still requires that prior state to have existed, which raises the question of what preceded it, which raises the question of what preceded that. The regress has no natural stopping point within a framework that does not allow for an uncaused first cause. The concept of an uncaused cause, something that exists necessarily rather than contingently, that is not brought into being by anything else because it is the source of being itself, is not scientifically testable. It is a philosophical and theological claim. But the scientific framework, taken honestly, also cannot answer the question. It describes what happened from the first fraction of a second onward. The moment before that fraction, the singularity itself, remains genuinely, structurally outside what the model can reach. What both frameworks share is honesty about the edge. The physicist who says the mathematics break down at the singularity and we do not know what is on the other side is being honest. The theologian who says the Creator exists outside of time and created the conditions for time to exist is being consistent with the logic of their framework. Where the two diverge is not on the question of what science can currently measure. They diverge on what lies beyond that measurement, and on whether anything beyond that measurement can be known through reason, revelation, or both. One thing is certain, the question does not disappear when examined closely. It becomes more serious, not less. The deeper the physics goes, the more precisely it maps the boundary of what it can explain, and the boundary does not recede. It stays exactly where it has always been. At the beginning, before which the tools stop working. What was there before everything? Science says it cannot fully reach that point yet. Philosophy says the question may be malformed. Theology says the answer has always been the same. And somewhere between all three, the human mind sits with a question it was built to ask, but may never be built to fully answer. The wall is real. What is on the other side of it is the oldest question the species has ever asked.